All right, guys. Good morning. January 30th. It's about 9:57 a.m. on the East Coast. So today we are going to be getting into some fun stuff. So hopefully everybody is who listens to this has received the Ruach, and hopefully you've had, maybe you've only had a few days, maybe some of you have had weeks, months, um, but hopefully at some point you have had an opportunity to interact with the Ruach. Um, and when I say that, I'll break that down a little bit too. So when you have cleaned your vessel, right, you've made your repentance, you've sought the name, you've sought my face, all these things. Leading up to that point, you should have had a total transformation, and maybe one that you're not fully done with, but at least beginning that journey. So a total transformation is almost, it feels like, imagine you were, you know, playing the game of life, right? You were playing basketball on the court of life, and you're sweaty, you're wrapped up in the metrics and the score and the, like, just totally immersed into the game. And then having a spirit put into you by the Ruach HaKodesh, my breath. So literally, in spirit, I'm breathing upon you, and you are either able to receive it, and in which case, then you become essentially a fish in my net, and then you are going to be purposed for the kingdom of heaven. So congratulations. That's a really big step, and not one that, in truth, like a lot of people may claim, they've had a rebirth, or they've had this, or they've had that. That's not what I mean. That's all placebo, and that's like your psychotherapy type stuff. This is something that cannot be denied, and it's something very real. So that experience would be, if you're on the courts of life and you were touched by the Ruach HaKodesh and you were chosen, then you're going to immediately or soon thereafter have a feeling that now you're on the basketball court naked, like total shame, total embarrassment. And it is literally like having this come to your father moment, where imagine if you were that son of perdition and you stepped away, right, from the house of the holy a long, long time ago, and then you went out in the world, you did a lot of things, mostly sinful, and a lot of times unknowing, really, or really not top of mind that you were sinning. You were just satisfying the flesh one way or another, and then having that naked moment where you're humiliated, right? You're covered in shame, and you can immediately come to remembrance of your sins. Some people may have had a problem, right, with substance abuse, and they were cured of it. Some people may have had obsessions with, you know, dark thoughts, or obsession with things that are sinful or unrighteous, right? Um, those who may have had violent tendencies are not violent. Like all the worst things that man could ever inherit or get through the world, you are immediately cleansed and renewed, reborn, and changed. And then at that point, your renewal becomes the most important thing in your life. So you, by nature, without knowing it, are in the pursuit of holiness, of righteousness, because you don't want to lose your gift. And so that's where so many are right now. And a lot of people that have that gift, right, they are essentially seeking, like, well, what really is right? And then they get more serious about their Bible studies. And then you start realizing a lot of the fakeness, right? You start biting into the hamburger in a parable type of way, and you're realizing, like, it's not really meat. It looks like meat, it smells like meat, but it ain't meat. So what the heck is it? That's how life is, and especially life after you've been touched by the Ruach. And it will never leave you, right? It will never leave you. The Ruach is for those who've been reborn and touched by it, right? That puts you in a whole new category in the family, right? That puts you in a truly, what's called, a brother of the house. So the brothers of the house are not only a remnant, they're the leaders of the remnant. So you brothers of the house, right, and sons of the Most High. So that's another thing. You guys would be then considered my sons, right? Sons of the Most High, sons of Yahweh. And then not only would you be propelled, right, to use your gift, and a lot of times you may not know what that gift even is. So we are going to cover a little bit of that today. Let me pull up what I was working on here, and we will start going into the gifts of the Spirit. And this should be a lot of fun. So I really hope you guys get a lot out of this. These are the things I really enjoy doing because, like I've said before, my primary job really is, make judgments, destroy evil, and completely gut all the Babylons of the world and completely trample, destroy all the beast systems. But that is most effective when we let basically the snake eat its tail. So that's what we're, when I say again I'm talking myself, not only in the person, but also in the Ruach and from upstairs on high. Um, and then, of course, I have teams of angels that assist highly, highly detailed in these things. So we'll go down a couple of things first. So some of you might have received the prophecy, right, or the gift of sight. So it's one thing to be able to have a gift, and it's something else to essentially exploit it in a negative way. And a lot of folks that may have had the baptism by fire, right, through the Ruach, and then had that vessel cleaned, if they're not picked off the vine or picked from the stem rather quickly and guided properly, they can use those gifts for the adversary. Unfortunately, it's very much like you have the 16-year-old child, and you've tried to teach her how to drive, you've done the best you can, but at some point, right, you got to give them the keys and a full tank of gas, and you got to hope that they're going to put into play all those things you taught them, and they're not going to let their flesh, right, a 16-year-old getting excited because their passengers are exciting them to speed, right, or to take risky moves when they think it can make them look cool or get some clout or whatever reason, right? You want to make sure that your 16-year-old daughter who's about to drive is going to maintain, you know, caution and preparedness and alertness, and make sure that they're looking out for not only other cars, but also how they're performing on the road. So I know that's a little weird to compare to this, but this not. So um, the gift of vision and of prophecy. That's one of the first gifts given to the sons because that gives you the ability, whether you know it or not, to come up to council meetings. Now, if I were to do it in an illustration, I want you to imagine that there is this invisible, like, water cloud thing that is above you. And when you have that spirit now, you're able to come out of flesh and tap into that sphere. You are basically hearing conversations between me, the angels, and the council. And you are able to essentially pick up on things that are going to happen. So this could manifest in the physical where you've had a dream, or you're in the middle of grocery shopping, and you're looking at eggs, and next thing you know you have these totally unconnected thoughts, and they're kind of random, like a comic cartoon strip on a newspaper, right? And then you're seeing things in your mind, but even sometimes you're not able to really explain them. So these are, again, things that folks that have the vision and the prophecy are able to do, because you're kind of reaching in there and you're feeling what's going on. And this is all in spirit, but it's very real. It's very tangible. So it's not like it's wispy, right? Or, if you do all this and do all this, you get it. That's not the way it works. It's usually all the stuff you do after you get it is where the work comes in. Um, and so a good way to not only walk the straight path when you have that gift is not only giving the glory where glory's due, right? So we're bouncing that upstairs, Yahuwah, right? Yahuwah, um, Yahweh, right? I am Yahweh. I am the self-existent one, outside of my flesh. I existed before everything and I'll exist after it, right? So the eternal spirit. And then being on earth, right? I am my father. So I can control these things in the physical natural, but also in the spiritual natural. Um, and then most things that, like myself and all those I'm giving gifts to, what you guys can't do in the physical is usually interact with like the beast systems. Because the beast system, if you imagine their Ruach that they're using is through all of the natural physical here. And then the stuff that they can use in the spirit natural does not come from heaven, does not come from the treasury, does not come from my abode, does not come from anything other than um, counter forces, right? So insurgent forces. So whenever you have a vision or a prophecy, the first thing you should do is you should pen it down in a journal. Don't show anyone first. Do this. If you're getting them by the day, do it by the day. If you're getting them by the week, do it by the week. But you want to correspond with the regularness, because the big thing is you do not want to use it as a weapon. You don't want to use it as a scare tactic. So if you're getting visions and you're seeing in these dreams, sadly today, right, with the helicopter and the plane, right? Well, that was known about. But remember, in the physical, we not only have to be careful, we have to protect ourselves and our minds. So it would be unwise for me to have put that prophecy out directly, right? Because number one, this is what I mean, those people will not listen. I've tried, and I've learned that if I try to intervene in things like that without having all these other trails that split and come out of the scene, then it rarely has a positive effect. So that's why with those things, obviously everything is known about in that regard, but I just plan around it, and then continue down the road. But it's also why it's important for as many people as we can to get sealed under the name. They become essentially agents for the good side, though. So their eyes, their ears, they can lend it up to heaven. So when the angels have to go out and they're on a mission for me, or they're trying to accomplish something for one of the teams out there, one of the saints, one of the chosen ones. When I'm saying that, I'm referring to the 144,000. So you guys are all over the globe, and you've all been chosen based on several factors, but the number one factor being that you're truly good at your core. And a lot of times you guys come out of this stuff not looking good. I get it, right? Before I, was fully, call it, activated, I was a smaller version of myself and constantly looking in mirrors, right, without an acknowledgement of my own self. And so knowing my mission and knowing the things I had to go through and to trudge down, I had to do it the way I did it, because if I didn't, it would be cheating, right? I can't walk into a situation and go, oh, yeah, well, I'm the Almighty and I can bend reality and I can do this and this and this. I would have never experienced the hardship on the level that I did. So looking back, right, I don't cry I don't cry about this or that and the other. You just take it on you take it on the chin as a man, and then you get up and you walk off the field a champion, but you return as something more, something greater. And you use those experiences because then you can find somebody who went through something similar, but now you have a gift to be able to apply to those things, right? So when we're talking the gift of vision and the gift of prophecy, that's something that you can use as a confirmation for yourself first. So you do not exploit this. None of the gifts are used for exploitation of money, of people, property, places, things, It is absolutely never to be used unrighteously. So when you're sharing these things, you need to share them in an inner circle, right, with like-minded house brothers of the house of Yahweh, right? Or you can share it with me directly in prayer if you want. Um, but these things, right? I know there's tons of evangelicals out there that like to get in front of a microphone and they say, God told me this and that and the other. And you guys know they're all false. They're trying to get the limelight, right? They want their parishioners to get excited to be putting money in those tip jars. And hey, just like darts, right? If you've never played darts a day in your life, but as long as you keep throwing a needle towards the wall, right, something will stick. Well, the masses, again, are ignorant. You guys already know this. So they're gonna buy into, right, one of their big branded stars. So that's why we want to avoid that, and then keep it in the inner circle. So sharing with your brother in the inner circles, and that's something that we need to get stronger on. So I will charge this to one of the brothers. I want you guys to establish a circle link. So not only are we finding lost sheep, but we are also trying to band up together our brothers. You guys are going to be the feet on the ground, um, physically leading your flocks, and your judgment is going to be, just that. Who are you taking along the truth train into the gates of heaven and into paradise? Um, I'm going to pause for a quick second. I'll be right back. All right. So gift of vision and prophecy, right? So number one, we do not ever want to weaponize that. And weaponizing means that we don't want to, walk into a public spot, right, and try to fearmonger, because that doesn't do anything. Like, if anything, that really gives just your normal average Joe a false perspective or a false perception of truth. And the goal is, we want truth to be our defining characteristic, righteousness to be witnessed by others, but also witnessed unto ourselves. So, and what does that mean? That doesn't mean that, we go for 8 hours and participate in the community and we put on a fake smile and fake righteousness, but then as soon as we leave, we're indulging in sin, we're indulging in gossip, we're indulging in, you know, unmatrimony sex, or even pursuit of the flesh. So if anything, it is keeping your mind sharp and your heart chastised to know that the world the world you're in, the world we're in, and I'm in it with you, is toxic, and everything is sick. Every TV show, every municipality, every government, every store, every corner, almost everything, and a lot of times you'll be sick to your stomach to find out that even a lot of these people, places, and things, a lot of these nouns, they like to use the shield of Jesus, to give a false sense of good dealings and good workings, when you find out behind the curtain that those people, right, they're priests who molest children. That's not righteous. That's not holy. And forgive my potty words, but I'll be damned if I would have, a son of the house, ever do acts like that. That's why the brotherhood is so important, because not only are there support systems, but understand that there are layers. You guys being the not only the front lines, but if military, right? You guys are like the Marine Corps of the Marine Corps. So you're like the spec ops guys. You guys are going to be not only highly equipped, but highly trained and highly effective in situations. And I'm not saying anything of a bodily way. So we're not walking around carrying weapons, right? We're not doing anything terrorist. Remember, that's darkness. That's evil. We do not work evil with our hands, and we are not swift to commit murder, adultery, or any sin. It'd be better for you to concrete your feet in your hands, thus you not commit sin, than to, go out there and do it. So that is also how you let me, you let the Spirit, you let the true powers that govern reality, the world, the universe, correct these wrongs. So when you're using the vision, you're using the prophecy, what you want to do next is, where can that be useful? If you need to strengthen a brother, share it with the brother. If you need to strengthen a sister, strengthen a sister. Don't extort it, is what I mean, right? But also use it as your own confirmation of faith to then receive more gifts and then progress further down the line. So again, you don't want to monetize those things. Never. I'm telling you, that's not the way. That's not the truth. That's not the light. That's not me. And again, if you've obtained vision, prophecy, things like that, then you want to make sure you're obtaining it from the right side. Because we have goodie bags, but so does the adversary. So discernment of righteousness, unrighteousness, clean and unclean. So again, no shellfish, right? Things that have shells, that's not edible for human beings. That's not something that we partake in. If it has the scales and has the fins, anything from the water, you're free to eat. You must, again, have care and concern with things like that. So understand that a sacrifice is just that. It sacrificed its life for your consumption. So that's not something that we want to really pursue a whole lot and go down, unless we really have to give a higher point, right? I would prefer to see, like, let's say we're talking about a 30-day calendar, right? So you could have like a meat, like let's say cow, right? Protein, beef, let's say, twice a week. So 8 times in the month, supplemented with, good healthy vegetables. Things that are grown from the earth is truly what the human diet, needs. There's good protein in lots of beans. There's great proteins found all throughout the natural resources. But as man, right, you do have that ability to eat meat. And again, there's nothing wrong with eating meat. Some may eat more than others. But if you do, stick to not only those that, chew on the cud, but those that are in life cycles that are much more fast, like a chicken. So that's another thing, right? There are specific foods of flesh to consume, but it must be done in a righteous and proper way. Because if we go around eating swine, or we're, you know, doing unrighteous things to the creation and even those that dwell in it in an unrighteous way, well, what does it do? It beckons evil spirits. It beckons the wicked things, because if a wicked sees a wicked, it's going to assimilate. If a good sees a good, it's going to assimilate. So that's why even in secret, we want to be righteous even to ourselves. So this is never something where even in like secret, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just do whatever the heck I want to do. Like, because when you have the Ruach HaKodesh, it is remaining in you, right? And that's the great thing, because you're hooked up to heaven. So if you imagine like, a string, and now it's anchored in heaven. And so if anything happens to your mortal body, bam, right? You're home. You're golden. You have nothing to worry about. I hope a lot of you don't get cut short on your campaigns here, because I really need you. But the good news is, if you do, you're already home, right? And then you'll be shocked to find, that I'm not there yet, because I'm here. So if you were to leave today, you would be, gained entry into the kingdom. You'd be dealing with, angels and emissaries, and even people that you may know throughout history. So again, it's not something to look forward to, in the sense that, I understand that that's the goal for everybody, right? Or most people, I assume. But right now, the purpose and the mission is what's most important. A good way to look at this, again, military wise, is you're on a deployment, right? While you're on a deployment, we mean business. The purpose comes before all things. When you're on a deployment and going shopping, at the knapsack at the corner, Dust Street is not top of mind. Securing your perimeters top of mind, right? Checking your weapons, checking yourself, checking your brothers, repacking your medical kit, those are things that we should be doing as soldiers. So that's what I mean. We always need to be purpose minded. This is working for the kingdom. And if you ever find yourself like, I don't know what to do or what road to go down, that is when you need to enter into deep intercession, deep prayer, and truly conversating with me, the angels, the Ruach. That's where those things come in. And it's not necessarily praying over someone. So that's another thing. We'll get into that here in a little bit. I don't want to jump too far ahead. Um, so some people may get the gift of wisdom, right? So what is wisdom? Wisdom is also foresight. So having foresight to be able to look at a situation and unequivocally know what's agreeable to the Ruach, to me, to heaven, versus what's not going to be equitable to heaven or me or the Ruach. So let's look at this an example. Let's try to use a carnal situation. Again, this is not necessarily like a plan, but just an example. So let's say someone had 1,000 acres of land, and they're like, well, I'm gonna chop it all up and I'm gonna commercialize this, and their mind is geared towards money, carnal. I can. Versus, if you know the time we're in, you know that there's not much time left. What could that be better used for? And let's say then that person is then reborn. They're touched by the Ruach. They're brought into my house. They're now called a son of Yahweh. They are a brother to a brother. Then that person's mindset would say, you know what? I have enough money to literally survive for the next 20 years, which we don't have that. But let's say they did. And now that land no longer looks appeasing or juicy, right? To piece it off. What's 1,000 acres going to do for the kingdom on earth? We've got brothers that need to find a place to set up a tent, to set up an RV. We are going to need literal physical locations as these times start to spiral down for our brothers, those that we're pulling out of the fire, those that we're pulling up in our nets. We're going to need safe locations for them to go. What are they going to do when they get there? We're going to need people that know how to farm, know how to build. We're going to need people with all these skill sets, right? So that one person with that 1,000 acres, right? Let's say that could be their one big contribution to the kingdom. And then they themselves, maybe that's all they can really contribute because they didn't get any other gifts of the Spirit. But the gift of the Spirit came through them through 15 years of good dealings, and they had a good opportunity. They got the land this way and that way, right? All through God's help, all through the help of Father. But it was for the purpose. And so many times, more than not, those purposes go unchecked, unleft, and never used because those people, they think the blessing they got is for them to use for themselves. Or if they're trying to use it in charity, they use a very, very small portion. They'll be like, well, I'm going to sell 990 acres and then I'll give 10 acres to the church people, right? And we're not church people, by the way. And we're not even religious people. You are sons of the Creator when you have been reborn, right? So you guys are entrusted with gifts. You're entrusted with having stewardship of not only earth, but of stewardship of heaven. And that's a really big deal because um, instead of being just a normal, average, everyday person, right? They're trying to find truth, get clean, they understand salvation, they understand deliverance, and then they understand that they're going to either be on the new earth state, right, or there would be in a rest in heaven, or they would be more or less a citizen, right, of heaven, depending on the level of desire. That's another point. That's what I do, right? I counsel upstairs, and based on someone's heart, mind, desires, will, history, all these things will also depend on where I put them. So it's very, very similar. Why I use a lot of gardening parables, because we don't want to plant um, a plant that likes shade. We don't want to plant it right in the direct daylight, right? That plant would not thrive. And in fact, it would make the plant unhappy. The plant could die. Versus, we don't want to have a plant that loves the sun. We don't want to put it in the shade. So we want to make sure that we're planting each plant according to its way, right? And according to the design. And that also goes down to human personality, character traits, traits of the heart, dynamics of family, all those things. Um, so leadership is another gift of the Ruach. So some people that may, throughout their whole life, have never really been a leader, have at times found themselves inadvertently leading because they may be the only ones in their area who know truth. They may be the only ones in their area who unfortunately have had a rough life, but that rough life actually taught you how to become resilient in situations where you may be the voice, one voice in 1,000 people. And if you didn't have the experiences that you had, you would have not had the thick skin to be able to speak in those crowds confidently. You would not have been able to compose yourself in the face of such adversarial conditions that you're prepared for now, right? These are leadership qualities. A lot of times the leadership qualities do coincide with pastoring a flock. That is one of my big goals for each and every one of you is I want you to either pastor a flock and do it confidently with that line of truth, because you will be walking them into the promised land. Just like the 12 tribes, each tribe had a leader. Their leader came to me to get instructions, and then they, taking instructions back to their tribe, they teach, they do all these things. So you are remember layers, right? So you guys are going to be, that high priest to your tribe. You're going to be that leader to your tribe. And then the thing is, by having the supernatural power, having the Ruach, having my spirit put inside of you, then you have not only the credibility, but you also have the the demonstration power ability, like Moses striking the rock, right? And Moses kept doubting when that would have been a much more stronger resolve to the people for him to have absolutely zero doubt. He's like, no, my Elohim said this. That's the end of the story. Like, there's no arguing, there's no questioning, there's no how in my mind can I rationalize this, guys. Creation is what it is. I am who I am. That should be enough. Signed, sealed, delivered. And the reason I point to, my own prophecies and things like that, it's not because I'm like randomly going, oh, what am I feeling? No, like, okay, this is coming down. How can I write this in a bit of an elusive way, um, but also in a sure enough way where you can read it and absolutely know, like, okay, this was impossible, right, for the carnal mind to even to fathom to happen, and it happened, right? So that's that level of prophecy, but also discernment. Um, so here are some fun ones because a lot of you have very sweet and tender dispositions, and I love that about you. So I know some of the you know big grr things may put you off, but don't worry because you guys have really strong placement there, right alongside your brothers. So remember, no chore in the kingdom is above or below another, right? So someone who has the gift of healing versus a leader versus a teacher, and some people can have many gifts. So that's another thing. It's not to say, right? Just like in the material world we live in, just because someone's a really good skier doesn't mean that they're not good at snowboarding, but also it doesn't mean that they're not a good surfer. And just because they're good at that type of stuff doesn't mean maybe he's a really good cook, you know so just like the natural human practices their stuff, right? If you're a good runner or you're a good whatever you can think of, but basically you practice these things. So healing the sick and mending the broken is a really fun one for some people. It's not fun like yee fun, I mean, like, um imagine, right, being able to bring people not only to the truth, but establishing that person who potentially has other people that they're going to witness. So imagine if, let's say Pastor Peter, right? Let's say Pastor Peter is going out to market and he's picking up a few things, and he passes a gentleman, that's blind sitting on the side of the road, right? Um, well, if he has, and he does, right? If he has those gifts of not only discernment, like, okay, this is not just a down and out, sinful creature that isn't even going to appreciate a gift, like that's not someone I'm going to waste my time on because it's not going to give a witness. I have a low chance of actually providing salvation and getting him to understand it versus having the discernment through the Ruach. Say Pastor Peter's walking and he sees this person and he feels that tug. That tug is me. That tug is coming from heaven saying, touch him, touch him. Fun is when you get that bubbling spring and you start getting excited because you're looking at someone going, man, I'm about to change your life. And whenever you do it, you don't need to go into intercession or break that. As soon as you feel that tug, right? Imagine if I'm holding, one of my kids' hands and we're walking and I do a quick jerk. I don't need them to pull back. What are you doing? It can be too late. So instead, you want to be kind of flexible. So when I'm pulling you in spirit, I'm like, this is one. Be confident. Lay those hands, right? In the name of. And that's another thing, right? So what are you wanting me to accomplish? What are you wanting the spirit to accomplish for you? So if you need someone, right, who has found their shame, now they're carrying it, it's a big burden. They're down on themselves. They can't get out of self-hatred. They can't get out of that cycle. Well, that's salvation, right? So then we want to use Yahshua, right? Or Yeshua, right? We want to use Yahweh is salvation. That would be the proper name for the Ruach to signal to the Ruach. All right, one of the sons is essentially asking the Ruach to heal this person on behalf of Pastor Peter, right? Or on behalf of Cohen, or on behalf of whoever. But you want to make sure that you're using the right gifts for the right situation. Okay. But yeah, so healing the sick, mending the broken. These are things that I don't know if any of, well, I mean, I know, but I don't know. I don't think any of you have actually confidently mended a broken bone in real time. That can be something, again, next level for a witness, because if you're healing someone of cancer, if you don't have the ability to resurrect the dead, so that would be technically considered necromancy, and that's something I don't like to do often, but it is something I do. um, and all things that I do, I have my own witnesses. And a lot of things that I do when I don't have a witness, I don't talk about it at all. I might talk to Asher a little bit about it, or even Cameron, but that would be like really it. My circle is that, like, my family here is my family there, but up there I have plus, right? So plus, a lot of pluses. So um, healing the sick, mending the broken. Remember, that's very much right. If you're asking of something, do it in faith that it's already been given. Because you know what? If you know me so much, if you understand holiness and righteousness, and you are like, my Father wants me to do this, and whether or not you can see me as that here, that's fine. If you have to put that in your mind from above, then do that. Absolutely do that. I don't care what you have to do, um, but use the true names, right? Know that I'm here. I mean, that obviously that helps, because the more belief you have, you can't have too little belief. That's the thing. You can't have too little belief. That is, that's the opposite, right? That is where the adversary wants you to doubt. The adversary wants you to have stop gaps in what you're about to do, because imagine a current, and that current's flowing. When you're engaging and you're positively on that current, you're just boom, 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 boom. Versus being hesitant and the current's going, you're like, oh, maybe I should go home and think about it, and then if I come back tomorrow and the guy's still there, then you've lost it. You've doubted yourself. You doubted what I want you to do because you don't know me yet. That's where, if you're having those moments, that's where you need to, when I say get on your face, it's not in any way out of abuse. It's not in any way out of like, you're bad. No, what it is getting in a physical position of saying, okay, all consuming, Father, please give me what I don't have. Give me the tools I need to work your will on earth as is in heaven. right? Give me the confidence to, when I see somebody, I can lay hands. Give me the confidence that when I'm in front of my congregation and I'm saying we're going to have a healing Saturday morning, right? I'm providing donuts, I'm providing coffee. Bring me all who are heavy laden and weary. That's the stuff that gets the Ruach excited. And I want you to also understand, if you try and if you fail, you did not fail. I don't want anybody ever, 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 ever to say they failed. If you have went through the steps with me and you're like, no, I know I've been reborn. Like, I know that there is something legitimately, physically different inside and out, and you have this never ending thirst of me, of the word, the prophets, the Bible, like you're on this path and you're almost like foaming at the mouth, like a rabid dog trying to get truth, and you're just scratching through it, right? And then you start getting pissed off when you find obstruction here, non-truth here, man worship here. And then you start seeing how all these people are absolutely insane trying to give power to unholy men, right? Like the father of the churches, right? The Pope. And then you're equivocally saying, well, Rihanna, because she's a big star, could lay hands and heal my broken heart. Like, you sound like a moron and honestly like a destitute little demon. Nonsense. But if you have the Spirit, you have the Ruach, you know me, you're on that path of sonship, you're going to be able to lay hands with a highly effective rate. And again, if it doesn't work on that person, it's not your fault. They cannot receive something they are not willing to receive. I mean, you can't give something they're not willing to receive. So if you're trying to lay hands and that person, if their pipe is so full, right? I can't go pour water in a closed cup, can I? So if that individual is a failed heal or a failed mend or a failed case, that is where you need to pull out those other skills, leadership, right? Teaching and pastoring those flocks. That's when that person, hopefully the same person, or let's say Pastor Peter, has a brother that is better at that. Pastor Peter would then say, okay, I'm going to actually give you the phone number to this person, and they're going to actually work with you on getting straight, right? Whatever that looks like, getting truth and pursuing down that path. Because then what we want to do is we want to clean those pipes. Once we get those pipes cleaned and we get that person in a position to be healed, then you will have another attempt. And mark my words, 100%, you will be successful as long as that person was open, honest, and willing to accept the gift. Um, and that's another thing. Always be consistent, right? In the name. And when I mean consistent, like, there are different variations, but all stems from the I am existence, right? Which in a personal name is my name, right? Yahweh. And then depends on the action I'm doing, right? Are we delivering somebody from demons? Are we providing salvation to ones who otherwise couldn't get it, right? Are we providing a healing for the sick? Are we providing a path and a means for someone who otherwise couldn't? We're basically trying to snatch these souls away from the adversary. We're trying to snatch these people out of the fire and get them in and get them into the safe pastures. So, teaching again, teachers. I love teachers. Obviously, I love pastors, rabbis. I love anybody and everybody who can say the true name, teach with a genuine understanding, and do it with passion. Because that's another thing. When you've found the truth, the single truth that I have been telling you, you will then unlock so many doors. And unfortunately, what we're up against right now is a covetous, idolatrous people. And these people, some of them may be good, some of them may be bad. It's just it's a mix of the bag, just like the world is. But by, again, using the false name, by using false Christ, by using man worshiping, people in the black priests, Catholic people, right? They're all full of shit, to be honest. But when you're teaching truth and you're teaching the right stuff, you're gonna understand what I mean. If the power And all the sons from heaven, right? If we all share this commonality, why are they wanting to step outside of the circle? Why is that, right? It'd be like, all right, it's Saturday or it's Sunday, right? We're gonna go do something with the family. Then you have the one kid who's like hiding out in his room, being sneaky, and is like, well, what are you doing? Why don't you want to come join us? We're gonna go do something fun. Like we're gonna go down to the river. We're gonna take the boat out, man. We're gonna catch some fish. We're gonna hang out at the little island. Let the little kids and ladies, hang out on the island. We're gonna go shelling, whatever. And you have that one son who's like, well, they're one of those cases that you got to look at it for what it is, right? And that's what I mean. So why does a people or why does a religion of any religion or any people want to get away from the one true God? Because a lot of times those things have started at the top and hundreds of years it trickles down. They're not allowed back under the house of me, right? So a lot of times they've been started by these fallen angels, they've been by fallen man, and they genuinely they want man worship. It's the only worship they're going to get is here on earth, because in heaven that don't fly. So that's what I mean. And then you have a bunch of susceptible people that are falling under there. And then by sheer grouping together, they're using placebo power to accomplish things, or they're using simply false testimony. They're using corrupted witnesses. They're propelling things for money. Like all these things are unrighteous, and that doesn't fly. So faith strengthening is another one. Some people may begin to start seeing signs and wonders. Now, when we're talking about like Revelation and it talks about lying signs and lying wonders, that is quite literally, think of like Baba Yaga, right? This Catholic seance weirdness. Like, this is not kosher. This is not legitimate. Um, you want to be able to strengthen faith in a personal way. What I mean by that is, let's say it's 6 a.m., the sun hasn't came up yet. You go out on your back porch with your cup of coffee and you simply do a kneel, a head bow, and you just start talking to me. Just start talking. I myself, or the Ruach, or the Father upstairs, is going to pick up on that. And let's say after say you've talked for 10 minutes, right? You get up and then you see a bird that you haven't seen before come and land right on the tree right next to you and start chirping, right? Some people may say, well, I got birds everywhere. Well, then I'm not going to send you a common sign, is what I mean. It's going to be something that is not common. It could be a bird, it could be a sunbow, it could be a light rain that I give, it could be a very swift breeze. It could be things, so benign, but you'll know. And when you start walking in that, where you're having a real life working relationship with the unseen realm, but in a positive, righteous way, you're going to build faith so strong that I'm not saying do this, but I'm saying that if the time came and the Ruach says, jump off that bridge right now, you would do it out of sheer faith. And the last thing on your mind is like death or dismemberment or what if, what if, what if. I'm not saying ain't no one jump off a bridge. But I mean that when the Ruach says move, you move. When it says speak, you speak. And by maintaining the cleanliness, maintaining no sin, maintaining constant contact in prayer, maintaining yourself, and then always putting your heart with your brother's heart to move forward on something, you're going to ensure that your vessel is clean. So you're receiving clean messages, you're receiving clean guidance. What you're feeling should be matching up to the videos I'm producing and also in this time. So we're in real time. Prophecies right now are in real time. They're coming in. They start in the microcosm and they begin to spiral up, up, up. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So look at that also on a destructive scale. So if you guys can think back, 36 months ago, they started off in the micro. Got a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, and then they start getting bigger. But all these are on their own legs and they're spiraling. And there's not 1, 10, 20. There are millions of these things that I am doing because I'm trying to buy time for souls to wake up, right? Hurricane Helene victims was a good example of that. We had the Appalachian Mountains, where at one time those folks were so dedicated, even though it was the fake name, they didn't have an opportunity because again, I wasn't fully engaged in the ministry yet. But point is, they had the heart, they had the mind, and they had the want. Those very people are going to be challenged with overcoming pride, with overcoming social anxiety, overcoming potentially lonesomeness. For a lot of people, guys, that can be detrimental, which is also why we need to strengthen our flocks, strengthen our gifts, strengthen our skills. Because if we pull someone out of the fire and say they're used to going to a 500 strong Christian church, you know, but their heart is truly seeking truth, right? They're seeking my face, and they want to be in the inner circle, right? They want to be a legit remnant. Then you got to prepare for what that person could experience, and we want to make sure that we can accommodate as best we can, but not in a bad way, right? We don't want to lay down our purpose, our mission, and then completely reorganize our life or what we're doing for the kingdom for one individual. It's a little bit of give and take. But your discernment, one of the gifts, is also going to help you with that, right? You're going to know some individuals we do need to put a little bit more work into. Some individuals, they're going to pick up truth, they're going to grab it, and even if the best they do is, they're talking to their dog, they're telling their goldfish, right? They're on YouTube, they're trying to read Torah, like they're really into this thing. And for some people, that's enough. For some people that are not going to be in leadership positions in my kingdom of New Earth or the heaven states or the realms, right? Those people are just citizens. That's okay, because a citizen in the kingdom of heaven essentially is just being a good person, obeying righteousness, and they get to essentially live in paradise, without effort, without labor, right? For as long as they wish. Some indefinitely, some are still there, some are just as happy now as they were then. And then likewise, you have some souls, some peoples. They'll pick up this, and then they want to go to a resting state, right? And then sometimes they want to be woke back up when certain events transpire. That's okay too. Um, Again, for those that are pursuing the eternal life or have already been given a spirit, all these things, right? Your first thing is, right, we're on earth right now, so we got mission objectives to complete. That is in the microcosm as well as the macrocosm. um, and then again, like, I'm working in so many different people, so many different sections of not only the United States, Israel. I'm working at a distance. I'm trying to give them a little bit of space so they can genuinely get their stuff together. um, because not only is there going to be tons of stuff just exploding in the Middle East, but we have had to recap that situation 3 times now, because the amount of actual sons and actual tribe members and the sons of heaven, sons of Israel, like, we are way short on numbers with those guys. And again, it is up to me, right? I don't want to go and level Jerusalem and go, ha, 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 ha. That's stupid. And that's useless. And what does that do for me? What does that do for heaven? What does that do for my angels? What does it do for the work that remains upstairs? Right? It doesn't do anything for me. So even though, right, my ultimate goal, right, is destroying wicked, evil things, completely gutting the beast system, like all these things are great, but there are literally good good patches of wheat where there is chaff, right? There is literally the rows in between a patch of thorns. So I don't want to just start laying fire onto the field, because then I might catch a rose here or a rose there, a wheat grain here, a wheat grain there. And right now our numbers are so small, like, we just can't afford to lose anybody. But at the same time, I must continue the progression. If not, things then get stale, they get stagnant. And this is another thing. You need to be able to remain in truth and spirit and holiness and righteousness and pursuance in the face of whether it be super fast pace and you are out of time and you're like laying hands, bringing this person into the fold, that person into the fold. That's what our mission objective is. So as a big overview, you need to pull people into the fold. If you have a flock, an active ministry, and it's based on truth, then not only are we to be feeding the flocks that you currently have to the best of your ability, get as much face time, as much handshaking time, build relational bonds with your brothers. That could mean going full wheeling up in the mountains with, 10, 15 of your brothers. You want to be a brother's bond. You have each other's backs. And again, you're going to be growing these communities. So you're a community within a community. And no matter what you're lacking, I will see to it personally through the Spirit, through working of whatever I need to work to make it happen for you. We're going to make sure every mouth is fed, every ear is hearing truth, and every eye knows the face of their Lord and knows the proper name of their Creator. And that's really it, right? A lot of that is going to be fleshing it out, right, on your end. That's where you get creative, right? You want to talk about personal stories that led on faith, but whatever it is, but try to keep in mind the ultimate purpose. We do not want to have wasted sermons. So when I'm saying time is literally of the essence, you guys might not think much about the doomsday clock because they're ticking that on the scientist stuff. I've also got a pinky in that too, because that is the only thing that the world has right now that's a legit witness for even the unbeliever to see and go, damn, something's going on. Like, this ain't good. Um, Even these reports, right, you're hearing of the volcanoes kind of waking up, and it's like, well, it won't happen for another 100 million years. Guys, that could happen in 5 minutes if I wanted to. Um, what to you guys is based in a million years is nothing more than my will be done. I go upstairs, I figure out what I want to blow, what I don't, what I want to stop, what I don't, pin it down, bam. Now again, that's not to say that there is not 100 million other things happening in the sphere, because of course there are. But I'm only going to be paying attention to certain people, places, and things that I'm either trying to work those fields and gain followers and winners, souls. I don't mean followers on YouTube or anything. Um, I mean, followers that I am able to, at any time, in any place, I'm able to go, okay, I can see Mr. Montgomery, okay, I can see he talked to his wife about this. I can see his wife is struggling there. I can see the daughter has no interest. The son might have interest. Okay, here's what I'm going to organize. That's all happening in a millisecond. And it's not just with Mr. Montgomery. It's not with just this person or that person. It's with hundreds of people. And I need the strongest of the strong, right? I need the strongest of the strong who can go out there with truth on their lips, the ruach in their heart, the confidence that you should have, or I will give you, to do the work of the kingdom. So that is really what's spreading the Holy Scriptures. And again, a lot of times, especially now, a lot of us, a lot of you guys may be, limited based on your geographical area. You may be like, well, I'm literally in a trailer in Canada. My nearest neighbor's 3 miles away, and that happens to be my best friend anyway. I totally understand your situation, and you're right. I don't want you trying to go door knocking. I don't need you to go stand out in front of the hockey center, handing out pamphlets. No, you could go fishing strictly online. If you go on YouTube and start playing with keywords, start playing with Bible study, you'll find these flocks. You'll see one or two or even three people, usually less than a few hundred. You'll come upon their Bible study. If you see that um, they're teaching half truths, right? So if they're teasing in the Old Testament and then they're trying to make connections, or even if you see a ministry that's completely against truth, depending on what gift you have, right? If you are a good leader, if you're a good teacher, if you're a good faith strengthener, if you have wisdom and you have holiness and you have righteousness, you could be able to get into that group. And I'm talking, it could be a 1 or 2 deal. You don't have to sit through the whole thing. And don't just go in there dropping 6 paragraphs and think anything's going to happen. No, look at what people need, right? So you'll see a very commonality of somebody going in the comments like, please pray for my brother. I hope Jesus comes soon. I'm so tired, like whatever. That's a good person that they're not only in a position that they need miracles, they're a person that's open to truth. Because I tell you what they're praying on, what they're doing, and who they're listening from isn't working. Versus the other people that are in the comments of these big Jesus organizations saying they're making $700,000 a year. Praise Jesus. The gates have opened. I'm living heaven on earth. That's Dionysus, to be honest. Like that's Apollyon. Like I don't know what else to tell you guys. That is not the light. And again, that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Is before this point, it wasn't really looked at as the name because it's not a personal thing at that point. It's like, okay, you got a good heart, you got a good mind, you got a good future. Try to get back on track. All those that are not destined for heaven, right, or they're the devil's seed, they don't have a path. I just try to keep them out of the path of my good ones. So a lot of my job pre now is just, okay, you got this D-bag gonna cross paths with one of my chosen at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, and it's gonna derail her. So that ain't happening. Need the devil's seed to get the flat tire, be delayed by an hour. He never intersects with my righteous person at this time. That event never occurs. Bam. That's how we operate. Versus if the entire planet was hooked up to me, hooked up to the Holy Family, again, they didn't have uncertainty about faith because they just have the truth. Like it is what it is. It's not a mystical thing. It's not to be like, and that's what I mean, right? You don't want to go all Tom Horn because he did more damage to the kingdom than, that's what I mean. He's not the only one. There's a lot of those guys. Um, but right, I gotta pluck those weeds right out of the field if there are way too many roses there, because I don't need my roses getting poisoned or spoiled. Um, I'm gonna do an entire separate video when it comes to dealing with dark forces. So I'm gonna cut this one. I think we've covered quite a bit on how, some of the gifts and how to use them. And then I'll bring on the next video, which is going to be dealing with physically, spiritually dealing with dark forces, rebuking demons, casting them out of people, even being able to cast out and bind demons without being in the flesh with that person. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Love you all. Mwah. Thank you for all the work you're doing. I appreciate you personally. And again, you have my heart, you have my Ruach, and we're gonna get some work done. And at the end of all this is gonna be a great feast. There's gonna be lots of tears of joy. There's legitimately gonna be things that are gonna blow your mind and things that will continue to blow your mind. So I look forward to showing you guys not only paradise, but things in the realms and just how important you can be in the building blocks of reality, of life, of mankind. So, all right, guys, love you. Bye.